So yesterday we had a lovely, lovely spiritual practices retreat here. And it was just so affirming. And I think everyone who participated said that it was just what they needed at this time of the year. And I mentioned that because just because it applies to something I want to talk to you about right now. Had he lived, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would be celebrating his 94th birthday today. I think we forget most times just how young this old soul was by the time of his death. I am always quite astonished to even briefly consider what he managed to say and do, and how in the bright sharpness of the 39 years that were his life, he inspired the imagination and hearts of people of all races, genders, and abilities all over the world. And though we often prefer not to acknowledge it, or perhaps it's that we don't realize it, we here in America were forever changed not only by his commitment to civil rights, but that it was framed by a steadfast commitment to love and nonviolence, inspired by two deeply spiritual people, the mystic Howard Thurman and Mahatma Mohandas Gandhi. And this is important because sometimes as we become weary in the work or feel overwhelmed or are too often challenged by what has been set before us to do, easier to believe that to foster a deepening of our work for justice and civil rights is somehow separate from a deepening of our pursuit of spirituality and moral ethics. And yet nothing is further from the truth. Those who volunteered for sit-in demonstrations in Birmingham, Alabama, were required to sign a pledge that agreed to 10 practices, 9 of which were spiritual practices, such as meditate daily, pray daily, walk and talk in the manner of love, sacrifice personal wishes in order that all men might be free. Seek to perform regular service for others and for the world, and strive to be in good spiritual and bodily health. The practice of justice and spirituality were inextricably connected, one resulting from an outpouring of the inner work and commitments of the heart. And later, as he sat in a Birmingham jail, Dr. King wrote to liberal Christian ministers, by the way, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. This network of mutuality King was ultimately alluding to is what you understand to be the interdependent web of all existence which we are a part. King and those who worked with him provided a template for creative thought and imagination so that those of us who came later could boldly hold the expectation that all people are indeed created equal and with certain inalienable rights. At the very least, the right to housing, food, dignity, respect, and education and civil rights. So sometimes we don't get to finish the work as much as we might want to. Perhaps the purpose we have been given is to get it started or to make a simple contribution as hundreds of thousands or millions have done over time and continue to do. Singular drops that join together in a network of mutuality that can ultimately form the ocean of change we seek. What is often most difficult for us to accept, though, is that this is not comfortable or easy to do. King's response to the question, where do we go from here, which is what we often ask, was in no way romanticized or complacent. His response was that we must honestly address the question of the restructuring of the whole of American society. He wasn't suggesting that we overthrow the government, but he was suggesting that we ask questions about the systems and structures of our society. He was committed to doing this through nonviolence, which he was convinced was the most potent weapon in the struggle for justice. He was committed to doing this using a strong, demanding love. I have seen too much hate, he said. If you are seeking the highest good, I think you can find it through love. He was committed to organizing, to bring about social, political, and economic change. He clearly named the need for power and that nothing is wrong with power when it is used correctly. In his words, power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is weak and sentimental. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. And so may we not forget that these at their core are ethical and spiritual commitments, my friends. My call to you today is that we strive to see flourish the network of mutuality we are a part of with all the citizens of our city and of our state. May you seek in your committed pursuit of truth and meaning, as our UU values call each of us to do in this pluralistic faith of ours, may you find and creatively express the unity of justice unseparated from the ethical morals and spirit at the core of your own being. May it be so. Amen and Ashe.